Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. In debt we trust. Let's explore. We live in a society now that is based on debt. In almost every aspect of our lives, debt is foundational in terms of our transactions and in terms of our culture. You know, we all get into debt in one form or another, and some of it is considered good debt, and others of it is considered bad debt. Good debt would be what you would acquire to get a home or a car or something that you need in order to make your way through this life. We all need a roof over our head. We all need transportation. And there are times where we need to get into debt to make an emergency purchase, such as a new furnace or a repair on a vehicle and the like. That is considered good debt, or in many cases, necessary debt. You know, if you want to use that term, because I don't know that any debt would be considered good. But the problem is that we are a society that has grown accustomed to it to the point where, well, we trust it. And that trust is something that is derived and whose foundation is this: the Federal Reserve Note. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 gave us these debt instruments. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. And we know that those public debts are quite large these days. In fact, it is over $28 trillion as of the recording of this video. And why is that? Well, because of public spending. In other words, we have government spending that is surpassing the budget each year and the money allocated. Hence why many times in Congress they raise that debt ceiling. In fact, to give you an idea of how often this has been raised, back in the 1980s, when a conservative president was in office, Ronald Reagan, the debt ceiling was raised 11 times. And so we have grown accustomed to this increasing debt to the point now where it's just so many zeros, it's almost unfathomable to consider what $1 trillion is as opposed to 28 of those $1 trillion. In fact, the idea has been floated around for some time that perhaps there would be a time based off of provisions off of a previous act of Congress that gives the Secretary of the Treasury the authority to coin money with platinum in order to take and pay down that debt by monetizing it with a platinum coin. And he can take the amount of dollars that he wishes and essentially use it kind of like a smoke and mirrors, but it'd be out in the open for all to see. It has been actually been proposed in some legislation that he would do so. That was to take a platinum coin and monetize it with the amount of money that it would take to pay down that debt. So platinum could be used, in a sense, to pay down and to eradicate the debt totally if they so desired under this provision. But likely that would not work, and no one would really fall for that thing because it would be smoke and mirrors. But I digress in that regard because not many people are all that worried about it. Politicians talk about it haphazardly before election time. Whatever party is in control is free to spend at will. The party that is not in control will criticize going into debt and bankrupting our children as unpatriotic and un-American. And really, when you think about it, a Democrat once said that in 2007, named Barack Obama, and he was right in 2007. And then after the previous president that he was taking office afterwards had increased the debt more times than all 42 presidents before him, well, the 44th, increased the national debt higher than all 43 presidents before him. And that's just it. We are a society that is reliant on this debt to the point where we trust it, on our money, that is both in gold and silver. We have these words: "In God we trust," right there, inscribed on this silver coin, and also on this banknote. "In God we trust." And, that's just a saying. It's now required by law to be on our coins. But those words really can be replaced with "In debt we trust," because we've gotten to that point. And can we blame our politicians for bringing us to this level of debt? Yes and no. No, because, we elect them and they do exactly what we ask them to do, in a sense. How many of you have said, "Hey, I want this stimulus money. I think that our congressional district should get some money for this public works project, for schools, for health care, for all these types of things"? We want the public pocketbook, some of it, to come to our area, to our state, to our congressional district. All kinds of different things that requires money to be spent that the United States government just doesn't have. And you can't tax your way out of it, and you can't spend your way out of debt either. And it's gotten to the point now where the only thing that's keeping the dollar alive, and that's really what this is about, these are dollars, and this is represented here on a silver coin, but you can see that it is indeed a $1 coin here. And this 1 ounce fine silver $1 coin represents a unit of currency that is exchanged for goods and services. Now, obviously, this particular coin here is worth much more than $1, but nonetheless, it is represented by this Federal Reserve note. The Federal Reserve Act, enacted in December of 1913, is the beginning, really, of it all. And it was against the idea and notion of having money that is founded upon that which the Constitution has enacted, which is why we have these words on our money. "In God we trust," because under the Constitution, under provisions that only gold and silver should be used to be coined as money. Gold and silver. It didn't say paper money. It didn't say blockchain-based digital currency. Only gold and silver. And even after the Federal Reserve Act was enacted, we still had some semblance of a gold standard up until the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, which was the beginning of the end, because basically all other nations tied their currencies to the dollar. And then in 1971, Nixon removed us completely, at least it was supposed to be temporarily, off of gold. And then the only thing that saved the dollar at that point was its move and backing for transactions for oil around the world would be made in U.S. dollars. That set the dollar bill to be the world's reserve currency. And with the breadbasket of among 6 other major currencies around the world, the dollar is the most powerful. It is transacted the most between nations, and of course, with the reliance of the dollar of these nations, that is essentially what is propping it up, which gives the Federal Reserve, which gives politicians much more leeway to do the things that they do and to go into all of this debt in order to do these projects, public works projects, social justice projects, all kinds of different things to be able to bring us to where we are at here in this day and age in the United States of America and with other nations around the world. So we have become a nation of debt, and we will continue to be until we can't anymore. And why is this? Well, I think it's part and parcel too, because on our own personal lives, we are engaging in many of the same practices. Now, we don't have the leeway and the flexibility to do it at the level that the United States government does. We cannot print money. We are bound by contracts to pay back our debts. And that is really, in the end, what it's about. But it has gotten to such a point now here in the United States that it's become very easy to charge something on a credit card and pay it down with a minimum payment over the course of a period of time. And usually that period of time is a very long time. Now you can buy a new car with more than a 5-year note. It's a 7-year note on that car, accumulating quite a bit of interest. And so we can go in debt and be in debt and stay in debt for a lot longer without getting in trouble. And so it is indeed the fact that here in American society, at least, and probably for many Western nations, that we have become one of those whose motto is, "In debt we trust." And that is a sad state of affairs. We've learned to live above our means, to be able to get the latest and greatest in technology, the latest iPhone, the latest electronic gadgets out there in order to maintain this debt level. The latest fashions, the latest this, that, all kinds of different things that we can spend our money on. But what good does that do us? Well, it gives us the immediate pleasures of having those devices or things, or going out to eat, enjoying vacations and the like. And there's nothing wrong with much of that. In fact, I would say it's healthy to have a little fun every once in a while, to enjoy the pleasures of life, even outside of precious metals that you see here. I think that's a healthy thing to do in moderation. But we've gotten to the point where it's so easy to take a meal that's $50, $60 out to a restaurant, even a relatively medium restaurant. In other words, one that's not terribly expensive. You can very easily spend over $50 these days. And you are with your family. You've just put that much on a credit card when that money could have gone to silver or pay down other debt. So our only limitations to that is, we only make so much money, and we can only pay so many minimum charges on so many cards before we have to slow down. But they've made it very easy to get into that level and into that amount of debt. And so what do? We translate that to how we vote for our politicians. And so we become a nation whose culture is surrounded and embraced and engulfed in and entranced in this debt. I believe that we as a nation should turn back to the old motto of the old days, when it was "In God we trust, not in debt we trust." I believe that if we were to make a move in that direction, I think it would serve us well, no matter what your political persuasion is. If we are a nation that pays our debts down and we do less to get into debt in the first place, or from here on forward, I believe we are more apt to elect politicians who have the same moral compass, that we should not spend above and beyond our means, that we should learn to live within a budget each month. And just because we can print money does not mean we should be spending it and devaluing the dollars of our children. And I believe that if we were to go with that motto, we would be in a much better place, and we would preserve our union for a lot longer. But alas, that's not the case. In debt, we do trust. Sadly, all of us in one form or another partake in it, at least at some level. There are many in this community who have done very well, and I've seen the posts and videos of you who have talked about being debt conscious and trying to get out of debt and maintaining a debt-free lifestyle. And I think that's a wonderful thing. But this message is for those who struggle with it, and for those who may be tempted to go into debt, not only to buy the things that you enjoy that aren't necessary or that are completely, wasteful, but also for buying precious metals and going into debt to do so. I believe we should be wise about that, especially if you think there's an incredible deal out there because you think the precious metals are going to rise above a certain level. I would caution against that move. I would try to stay out of debt and not go into debt to get the very thing that should keep debt in check, and that is precious metals, the ultimate form of money, gold and silver. I hope you found this video useful and insightful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.